Hi, and welcome to my channel. I'm Nicole. I wanted to take this moment to introduce myself beyond just my hands. I made myself a deal that once I reached 100 subscribers, I'd share a little bit more about me. Well, I've now surpassed that milestone, and thank you so much. I'm truly blown away by the kindness and support I've received here on YouTube. This community is so special, and I'm thrilled to be able to share my hobby with you all. If I can show you a trick or two along the way, I feel like I've accomplished something. I'm fairly new to YouTube, but my journey into this creative space is a story for another day. I'm also a new Stampin Up demonstrator. Although I've loved and used their products for years, before that I was a huge fan of Close to My Heart, and I still have my favorite product lines that I remain loyal to. I've been scrapbooking off and on for over 20 years. Back when decorative edge scissors were all the rage and embellishments were minimal. It's been amazing to see how much this craft has evolved over the years. Like many scrapbookers, I have many albums almost finished, just needing a few pages here and there. One thing I make a point of doing is journal while I am working on the layout. I can't tell you how many pages I have from years ago that still have blank journaling spots. 20 years later, I still haven't gone back to finish them. So a little bit more about me. I'm a mom of 2 boys, Evan and Aiden, and I'm a wife of a wonderful husband named James. We live on a small acreage in Alberta, Canada. I love sharing my stories behind the photos with you, and I hope you enjoy hearing them as much as I love telling them. But enough about me. Let's get to why you're really here. Turn the camera around and get started. I'm working on a double page layout featuring the Friends of the Ocean DSP from Stampin Up. As you can see, I've already cut into this collection, and I have a playlist link below if you'd like to check out my other layouts using this suite. This is such a brightly colored collection, and I'll admit I was a bit intimidated by it at first. But when I saw this patterned paper, I got excited because I immediately saw a beautiful sunset, and that's exactly what I'm documenting today. I have several photos of a recent trip my husband and I took to Mexico, and you can really see the progression of the sunset in them. For this layout, I'm using a sketch from the creative design team. Since I already have all the measurements for my foundation, I'll go ahead and cut them off camera. I'm starting with a frame style layout featuring this gorgeous pattern paper on the left side. Here's the sketch I'm following. I will be making a few adjustments, like switching out my focal photo to a portrait orientation and using fewer photos than the sketch calls for. That's the beauty of sketches. They're a great starting off point to get your creative juices flowing. Now, before I go too far, I want to talk about my background cardstock choice. One of the coordinating colors in this collection is Summer Splash, but I found it just a bit too green for my photos. Now, since I'm wearing a denim jacket in this picture and my husband is in gray, both neutrals, I wanted to lean into the blue tones rather than the greens. I'm swapping out the Summer Splash cardstock for a cardstock from my stash that better complements my pictures. Now, depending on your photos, you may want to do the same. While preparing the base for this layout, I took the time to gut the center of my cardstock. This helps conserve the paper, especially when layering. For the right side, I did this for both the aqua and the white layer. It's a simple step that gives you extra cardstock to use elsewhere on your layout or for future projects. Following the sketch, I have 4 smaller photos running across the bottom of the left page, with my focal photo placed in a similar spot to the sketch. On the right side, I'll arrange my 3x3 photos to create the start of the grid pattern from the design. This photo here is of our guide, Matthew. Now, you can't see his face because we're shooting it into the sun, but that's okay. I say this all the time. For me, it's about capturing the moment, not necessarily about getting the perfect shot. Now, don't get me wrong. I love it when I take a great picture, but it's not my #1 goal. So I have a few gaps to fill where I don't have enough pictures. That's where stamps and embellishments will come in. I also printed this photo. I couldn't print it smaller than a 3x4 without losing its quality. I actually pulled this photo from the company's website because I really wanted a picture of the boat we were on, and this one was perfect. Now I'm going to place it here beside my focal photo. Looking at my sketch again, there's this dovetail piece that the 4 photos are sitting on. I've paired the Country Woods DSP with the Friends of the Ocean suite in previous layouts, and I love how well they complement each other. So I thought I'd explore using some wood grain elements in this layout as well. The boat we were on was white, not wood grain or worn, but this DSP always gives me beachy vibes and reminds me of old wooden boats, weathered piers or docks, and I especially love this wood grain pattern here. I think it'll add a lot to this layout, and bonus, it's the perfect size scrap. To bring the wood grain pattern across both pages, I also cut a few squares from it to repeat the design. While cutting the wood grain paper, I also trimmed several squares from an assortment of pattern papers. Since I'm building on a white base, I'm leaning towards using the B sides behind my pictures for some of the squares I need. I'm excited to use pink in this layout. Look at how gorgeous this picture looks with the pink mat. It really enhances that last glow of the sunset. For the 4 photos on the right, I want to add pumpkin pie cardstock behind them. I'm using the lighter side for a softer look, and yes, that's just what it needed. To repeat that balance on the left, I'm matting the photo of our guide as well. The focal photo needs a mat to help it stand out more. There's blue in the sky, blue lettering in the side of the boat, and of course, my denim jacket. Now, even though Night of Navy isn't listed as a coordinating color in this suite, I think it'll work perfectly. It pulls from the blue elements in my pictures and complements my cardstock choice, which leans more blue than green. Another reason I wanted to mat this photo of James and me in a darker color is to help ground it. Matching the deeper tones in the background, it naturally draws more attention to the subjects in the photo, or at least that's what I think. And I'll bring in more of that color behind this wood grain square here. I purchased this Under the Moon stamp set from the 2024-2025 annual catalog. Not only does it make beautiful, quick cards, but I thought it would be a perfect addition to this layout in place of one of the photos. I stamped a sunset scene on white cardstock using Coastal Cabana for the water, Calypso Coral and Pumpkin Pie for the sun, and Night of Navy for the boat. After trimming it to size, I absolutely love how it turned out. I'm sure most of you know how to achieve this look, but in case you'd like to see this stamp in action, I'll do a quick demo. I have my 3 stamps on blocks and all the ink colors ready to go. Just for this demo, I'm using Lost Lagoon for the ocean. I'll stamp the water first on my white cardstock, working on a foam mat to ensure good coverage. Now for the sun, I'll add both colors before stamping. Using the stamping spot helps because the smaller ink pad gives me a little bit more control over where I place the ink. Then I'll take a blender brush, ink it up with pumpkin pie, and lightly blend it into the stamp where I want the orange. After that, I'll lightly go over the Calypso Coral area with the brush to soften the transition between the 2 colors. So let's see how it looks. I'll stamp it up just on top of the water, hold it down for a beat, and voila! Isn't that pretty? As for the boat, it can go anywhere in the water. I'll get this all cleaned up and I'll be right back. For my title, I turned again to my Cricut and used the print then cut feature. I created 3 separate text boxes choosing fonts that I liked. I enjoy mixing fonts. The word sunset and sea are in the same scripty font. I believe it's called Bright Sunset, while at is in Californian. Once I had all the words placed how I liked them, I used the offset feature twice, creating a layered effect. Then after that, I selected flatten so that it became a print then cut item. Then I resized it to fit on my layout. To repeat some of the patterned papers from the left side to the right, I'm using this scrap piece behind this photo. I have this nice open space to place the title, and I think it's going to look great overlapping my photo here. Let's dovetail that wood grain paper. When working with a larger piece like this, I like to lightly fold it in half to find the middle. Then I either snip up from the center and then cut from each corner in, or I cut into the fold while it's still in half. Both methods work equally well. I'm going to trim about 1/2 inch off of the other side. Then I'll repeat the dovetail process, using the first cut as my template so they match. I decided to swap out the orange pattern paper for a solid orange cardstock instead. Since I already have a good mix of patterns, I don't want to introduce more. I really love how the wood grain paper looks with the navy matte, so I cut one more square to repeat that pattern. So far, I've managed to repeat all the patterns except for that sunset paper. I only have this small strip left from trimming the paper on the right side, and I don't want to cut into another 12 by 12 sheet. Maybe if I could cut a tag shape from the center to capture the array of colors. Let me think on that for a minute. So I also trimmed a square from the aqua cardstock to give the sunset a double matte and to bring in more of that color in my layout. Now it's time to start working on embellishments. I have 4 squares left. One will be my journaling spot, and I'm thinking of using 2 for clusters. That leaves me with 1 blank square. So I went back through my camera roll and found this really dark photo of the upper deck of the boat. I had completely forgotten that there was a top level. For embellishments, I pulled out the wave embossing folder because the evening of our sunset cruise was so windy, creating lots of waves on the water. I thought it would be fun to recreate that effect in one of my embellishment clusters by using this wave pattern as the background. I cut a small circle for the right side of the layout and a square from the embossed white cardstock for the left. Then, using a blending brush and Coastal Cabana ink, I lightly highlighted the waves to bring out the texture. I also grabbed the Something for Everything ephemera pack from Stampin Up. It has such a good variety of images, and I spotted this sailboat, which I thought would be perfect for this layout. I always keep a bin of extra stamped or die-cut beach-themed icons from previous projects. It's a great way to save time and to use up leftovers. I'll dig through it and pull out everything that might work. Then I'll start tucking pieces in and around my photos to add some visual interest. Now, before I get too far with my embellishing, I'm going to cut that tag shape from the sunset paper, and then I'll ink all the edges of my papers in Night of Navy. Since it's the darkest neutral in this layout, it'll help tie everything together nicely. I've attached all my layers down on the left side of the layout, being mindful of where I place the adhesive, keeping it away from the edges. It's so much easier to tuck layers behind each other when you don't have to fight with the tape. I also attached all the mats to the photos on the right side. For my journaling, I typed and printed it onto white cardstock, and I cut it to fit perfectly inside one of the grid squares on the right page. I wasn't loving the embossed waved cardstock in a square, so I'm going to switch it up, and I'm going to cut it into a circle instead, using a circle die from my stash. And I like that much better. To build on the embellishments, I already had coral and some sand dollars, but I also stamped a few starfish in different sizes using the Seaside Wishes bundle. I stamped them on white cardstock with Melon Mambo ink to bring in that pop of pink. And for even more pink, I die cut some coral using the Beauty of the Deep dies. I also pulled in some stickers from my stash using my anti-static pouch to remove the sticky from them first. While I'm fussing with placement, I'll tell you a little bit about these pictures. So my husband and I booked a catamaran sunset cruise for a romantic evening, watching the sun dip down below the horizon and enjoy the beautiful scenery of the open water. So there had been a light breeze throughout the day. We didn't think much of it as we relaxed poolside after our morning walk. That evening though, when we arrived at the pier, the wind had picked up. And once we were in open waters, the waves were rolling and the wind was so strong that the boat was bouncing over the water. At first, we were having fun, but over time, my dress was soaked. And unfortunately, a few passengers weren't feeling well, including my husband. After a trip to the lower deck, I thought for sure he was down for the count, but luckily he powered through it. What I thought would have been a romantic evening for two turned into a crowded, wet, seasick event. We did manage to enjoy the stunning sunset, and we did meet some really nice people along the way. I like to experience all of the things at least once. I'm going to cut out a few tabs using this punch. One from the sunset paper and one from the Melon Mambo wave pattern paper. I want to bring more pink up to the left side and repeat the wave pattern on the right side of the layout. I also stamped Just Breathe onto white cardstock in Coastal Cabana and fussy cut around the letters. It felt like the perfect addition since those were the words James kept repeating to himself when the waves were at their worst. To remind me of the splattering water on the boat, I want to add a few splatters to the layout. Using the Beauty of the Deep stamp set, I'll take this textured stamp and Coastal Cabana ink and add subtle watermarks behind the photos. To add to my clusters, I'm using the Sunny Days iridescent dots from the Friends of the Ocean suite. The package comes with 3 different colors and 2 different sizes. They are available to purchase separately if you wanted. I'm going to use the orange ones in groups of 3 around my clusters. So I ended up with 4 embellishment clusters on this layout. I feel like this one is too big, and these 2 are competing with the photos. To balance it, I'll remove the coral behind the circle and I'll replace it with a tag cut from the pink wave pattern paper. That looks so much better. I'll trim it slightly and adhere it in place. Then I'll bring in some navy twine to match what I did on the other tag. To ground this embellishment cluster, I'm going to add Melon Mambo cardstock to the square behind it. It gives more of that sunset feel and keeps everything cohesive. That's it. I'm calling this layout complete. I also added a few word stickers to help repeat colors throughout the design and enhance the storytelling. I don't often create grid style layouts, but I'm really happy with how this one turned out. I hope you enjoyed watching this layout come to life. If so, please give it a thumbs up, and I'd love to hear from you. Has anyone else had a similar experience? All the items I used to create this layout will be linked in the description box below. Some of these items are now in the last chance section, so if there was something you were eyeing, don't hesitate, supplies won't last long. If you haven't already, I'd be honored if you subscribe to my channel. I release a new video every week. For still shots of this layout, head over to my Instagram page. And if you want to see another layout I created using this same collection, check out this video here. Until next time, happy crafting.